Can you hear me, Neil?
I can hear you. Your screen says
Sabrina.
Dunlap. How did that happen?
I
That's
have no idea. I'm going to log off and jump back on.
okay. That's bizarre.
It's going to do it. It did it again. I don't get it. Usually it asks me to sign in with my email address, and it didn't tonight for some reason. Maybe we're all going to be Sabrina.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, there I am. I'm back to being me.
Jeff, you've cleared all your travels, right? You've been back for 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
I got tested.
Oh, wow. How long did it take you to get results back?
It was only, it was the 3rd of July, which was the Thursday, and I got the results on Tuesday.
Oh, I've heard some people it's taken like 10 days, which seems excessive.
A lot. Well, they ramped it up so much, and
Yeah. Neil, I had like a sort of, I tried to catch you earlier, but I know you were swamped. I had sort of like I have a sort of logistical question. I don't know if we could add under an other in the agenda. It would not take long, but I don't know if we can do that.
You can change.
Okay.
Could add that.
Okay. It's about bathrooms at George Park.
Oh,
I know we've talked about this. I just want to visit it quickly.
Neil, I'm in apparently under Sabrina's address,
uh,
and I will get off because I have no business being in your meeting. But I will put some comments together for tomorrow night. And I put together what I suggest we can use for a totalizer thing on Saturday.
oh, great.
Would it help if I come down tomorrow after you folks all get done tonight and we start putting together the package?
Sure, that sounds great.
All right, I will do that.
All right.
Good luck, everybody, and good night.
Thanks, Bruce. Enjoy your evening.
Oh, well, I'll be on. I'll be here.
Oh, okay. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Anna. Why is it showing up as my name?
Who did that?
Because I'm on your line. I think
No.
you gave me your address, right?
Stephen is showing up as Sabrina also.
I was originally, and then I jumped to myself. I don't know how.
Yeah, you have to change your own name. Oh, I'm Sabrina Dunlap too. Oh my gosh.
Everyone is.
That's so bizarre.
Are you able to change it on your own?
Yes, if you hover over your picture and click the 3 dots on the top right, it'll say rename.
Nope.
I wonder.
Because I can rename you, but I don't really know which Sabrina Dunlap each of you are.
Oh, there's another
Really
Sabrina
weird.
Dunlap.
I knew
That last Sabrina Dunlap was Ken.
And Bruce.
Yeah, Sabrina and I look a lot alike.
Okay, I am now me.
Hey.
All right.
So
Soon
we need Ken to do the same. Oh, no. What?
Well, I was afraid we were all going to lose power and what that would mean for tonight's meeting.
Yeah,
We may be in the clear now.
I know. I saw the warning went till 8, but
I have it till 6:30 now. 6:15.
it looks, usually I can see the like darkness approaching and it looks like it's lightening up to our north. I don't know what that
It
means.
was intense there for a little bit.
Yes,
Some close ones.
Yeah,
especially on the top of your hill.
we're sitting ducks up here. We lose power all the time. So if anyone's going to lose power, it will probably be me. So I start with the usual spiel and then do a quick, I guess, sort of like overview laying out what we're going to be doing. And then we can talk more about process, if that sounds good to everybody.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to read our little right to know meeting checklist. Hi, everybody. All right. As chair of the Hopkinton Select Board due to COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with Governor Sunú's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Note there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's order. In accordance with the order, we confirm we're doing the following. A, providing public access to the meeting by phone with additional access by video. We're using Zoom this evening. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through Zoom, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing 312-626-6799. Meeting ID is 867-8931-4545, or we provided a Zoom link as well. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for the meeting. We previously gave notice of how to access the meeting via using Zoom on the Town of Hopkinton's website and the Town of Hopkinton's Facebook page. C, provided a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please call 603-746-8242 or email townadmin@hopkinton-newhampshire.gov. D, adjourning the meeting if the public's unable to access. In the event the public cannot access the meeting, we'll adjourn and reschedule. Okay, so a few notes. This is, where's my second page here? Oh, all right. All right, this will be posted on the town website, I think, right, Neil? Yeah, okay, like usual. All right, so all votes taken during the meeting will be done with a roll call. So we will start the meeting by taking roll call attendance, and so state your name. And if there's anyone in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law. So this is Sabrina Dunlap. I'm alone in my office. Jeff.
Jeff Donahoe, I'm alone.
Stephen.
Stephen Whitley, I'm alone.
Anna.
Anna Wells. I'm actually alone in my whole house for the first time in a very long time.
I'm going to miss Thea's little head popping in.
They'll make an appearance later. Don't worry.
Okay, good. All right, Ken.
Ken Trauman, I'm alone.
Okay. And Bruce is not officially, is he officially part of our meeting right now? No, he's not. I don't think does he need to announce himself? He's not voting. Okay. All right. So we have a short agenda. We have approval of the consent agenda. I do have one minor issue I wanted to just address very quickly before we go into all the town meeting stuff. So why don't we do the administrative things and then I'll give an overview of where we landed on town meeting. So
Okay, I'll move we approve the consent agenda of July 23, 2020.
And someone to sign it? Yes.
Okay. I heard that in the motion, Ken.
Okay, all right. Yes,
I second.
All right. Sabrina Dunlap's yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
and Ken.
yes.
Okay. I had one other issue come in that just because of the timing, I wanted to address it here really quickly. Somebody asked about there's soccer camps happening pretty soon at Houston. I said George Park earlier. It's actually the Houston Fields. And the coaches asked about using the bathroom facilities there, and they were told that we needed to weigh in on it. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it up really quickly because I didn't think we'd have another meeting in time for them to figure it out, because I think it's like August 10th they're starting. So I don't know if we've addressed Houston Fields in the bathrooms yet for anyone else.
We haven't opened any of our regular restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaning is an issue.
They did say they would do cleaning and sanitizing, although I did not get any more details beyond that general statement.
Well, the softball tournament that occurred at Blood Field and Clark Field, they brought in their own porta potties for the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the precedent has been set.
Yeah. Okay.
But that was like for one weekend. This camp is like the month of August, basically.
It's 2 weeks.
It's a week.
Oh, is it 2 weeks?
Hold on. I have, oh no, sorry, it's not 2 weeks. It's the 10th through the 14th, 4 to 7 p.m. each evening.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was 2 weeks for some reason. I don't know why I thought that.
I thought it was a month. So
There's so many soccer camps. I can't keep track of them.
You can't open it for just one group. You'd have to
Yeah.
open all.
right.
I'm not sure we can keep them safe.
Yeah. Okay.
Then
I think,
Bodies and posting, signing the porta potty.
yeah. So I think, yeah, to be consistent, we'll stick with porta potties. That seems fair.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. Thank you for indulging me that minor issue. Okay, so now we're ready to jump right in, right, on town stuff. Okay, so moving on to town meeting. So I wanted to just give a quick overview of like process, because this is new for everybody. We're all doing our best. So obviously we had our meeting Monday night, and thank you everyone who attended, and Bruce, great job moderating it. So that was part one of our town meeting, and we then opened up, people could send comments and proposed amendments until 5 o'clock tonight. So we have all of those. So thank you to everyone who reached out. And now we're having this meeting, select board meeting, but we're having it in the context of fulfilling our obligations under the new state law, HB 1129. So at this point, we are being tasked under state law to consider all of the comments and suggested amendments and questions that all came in by 5 o'clock today. And we'll talk a little bit more about the process of how we're going to do this, but we are tasked with determining the final amended version of each warrant article on the ballot. And then, so we're gonna do that tonight. And then the ballot will be available by 3 o'clock tomorrow, Friday. And then tomorrow, Friday, is part 2 of the virtual town meeting. And Bruce, our moderator, will read the final version of each warrant article, and the public will have a chance to comment on the final version, but I will note they are final. At that point, there's no changing them. People can ask clarifying questions and comment on them. And then Saturday, people hopefully will show up to vote with their paper ballots. And I will note that the bond, we asked bond counsel, because of a state statute, thanks for flagging that, Stephen, the bond actually has to be on its own separate paper ballot, which seems a little bit ridiculous, but that is in line with state law. So in terms of our process tonight, since this is a new process and we are doing our best to faithfully and impartially fulfill our duties as select people, I think we can each say what we think the process should be for reviewing and deciding how we're going to move forward with potential amendments. I'm just scanning my notes here. So I think Stephen sent around an idea for a framework, which I thought was great. And I agree with it entirely. So I'll just go over this proposed standard and then others can weigh in and say whether or not they agree or have other ideas. But there's sort of 3 elements to the standard that we'll use tonight. So one is, did somebody flag something, or did Monday's Zoom meeting identify something that we had overlooked or misapprehended? Number 2, I can't remember if I said A or 1, but number 2, did anything else that has happened in the world since the warrant was posted in February of 2020, that seems so long ago, for example, COVID or anything else, make us think that the article should actually be different than what we posted in February? And 3, do we feel that a majority of the town residents support making a change to the article, basing that on whatever we can? So those are sort of like the 3 main parameters for our process that I think make sense, but we can go around and see if everyone agrees on the process up front. So Jeff, you're next on my screen.
So excuse me, I think that's fine. My question was, are we going to read the comments that we received? Are we going to post them? How is that information going to factor into this discussion? I assume everybody's read them, but.
Yes, so thanks for flagging that. They are going to, I'm scanning my notes.
They are posted on the website.
They're posted already. Okay, so they are available to the public. And I think, there weren't a ton. So to the extent, if we're going through each amendment, or sorry, each article, to the extent we can just read them verbatim, I think that's fine. If there were a couple where it was linked too long or there were multiple, we could probably just summarize what we received and discuss.
Can I make a suggestion, Brittany?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we have comments and then amendments, not to every single article. And it looks like we have more general comments than there are amendments. I think we need to, at a minimum, acknowledge all the comments that we got. And so maybe going article by article and saying, these are the comments that we got, and either read them verbatim or, summarize them. And then if there are any amendments that are proposed, we address those. And then if we, the board, want to amend that particular article, that would probably be the time to do it, and then do that process for every article. Because I feel like, we need to acknowledge all the comments and maybe even discuss all the proposed amendments for every single article tonight.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense. So Jeff, do you have any other, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's my
Okay.
biggest concern, making sure that we acknowledge those comments we got.
Yeah. Stephen, you're next on my screen here. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. Like I said, I just kind of put down some thoughts for us to talk about. But if the board wants to do it in a different manner, then that's fine. So, but I do think it's important that, we acknowledge all the comments we've received, just so the public is aware that we've thought about what they said.
Yeah, I agree. Anna?
Yep, I agree with everything that's been said to this point. I think that we should go through article by article, read the comments, discuss. Yep.
Okay. Ken?
Are you waiting on me, Sabrina?
Oh, yeah, sorry. You're next and last.
I agree with that approach. Just the question, is it still our understanding that we cannot table any articles?
That's right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up too. That was what our outside counsel said. So I think, so for example, on the land use one, instead of tabling it, if we want to amend it to be 50%, we could do that. But I think we'd have to, at least it would have to go forward. I don't think we have the authority to table anything right now.
We could also tell people to vote against an article,
Mhm.
you know, or we could even amend it in a way that, you know, like a poison pill amendment, make it really objectionable so that people would definitely vote no. But yeah.
So, yeah. So just to recap, we will go through each, I think we got a couple of general comments. We can just read those and then move into going article by article, discuss comments, proposed amendments, and then we will, I think we will vote on each one. Yeah. And then that is what goes on the ballot. I think that's important for people to understand. So that's a difference between what our ballot will look like and what happened at the school meeting where they had the original proposal and then in some cases, many amendments cascading beneath that. We will amend the warrant article and that is what will be on the ballot. So it'll be a one option for each thing. Okay, I think that's everything. And just to reiterate, we're not doing public comment tonight only because in our mailer and as part of our whole process, we set 5 o'clock today as the deadline for comments, proposed amendments, and we felt like it would not be fair to then open up public comment tonight to people beyond that deadline. So that's sort of out of the norm for us because we almost always do public comment, but that was our thinking on that, just out of fairness and sort of sticking to process. So, Neil.
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
Brittany, can I
yes,
ask
Steven.
a point of clarification?
Yes.
So I think I just heard you say, and I want to make sure I understand what we're doing, that if somebody has made a motion to amend, are we voting on that exact language? Or are we just, you know, saying there is this motion to amend that we've received, and then talking about it and, you know, saying whether we agree with it or not, and then we figure out what the final language is for the article?
That's right. And that was the advice of our council.
Yeah.
So the latter. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is everybody good? So Neil, do you want to just put up the document? Awesome.
Sure, there's the rules. Here's the bond.
Okay.
I did put in any recommended changes so you could see them that you had talked about as you presented them on
Right.
Monday night.
Right. So that wrinkle is that we ourselves had already proposed changes to multiple articles. So that's sort of part of the mix here. So I'm gonna pull up, do people think it makes sense for me to just to read that document that had all the like comments and amendments so that everything's read into the record?
At least acknowledge them. Maybe not read
Okay.
them verbatim, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we had some general comments sent in, which we appreciate. So Sarah and Dustin wrote a very nice note saying she doesn't support any additional amendments and she thought we had done a fine job of trying to find ways to save money during difficult financial times. So that was a nice note. Another general comment from Arnold Coda. So I'll read his because his is a little more specific. So general comments: for any discussion on Articles 5, 6, and 7, address each article individually. Do not consolidate them as was done at the Monday meeting because that makes understanding and addressing it difficult. That makes sense. This was a comment he had about, I assume, Friday, tomorrow's meeting. He said, hold speakers to a set time limit. Instruct speakers to present new thoughts, comments, etc., not to repeat information, comments, questions presented by previous speakers. Totally agree with that. And then his third question is, has town council determined how the select board is to present article amendments on the ballot? Must all be listed? In what order? If not all must be listed, how will the select board decide which will? So that gets to what we just discussed tonight about our process. So they will not all be listed, and we are in accordance with state law going to the best of our ability try to decide what should be amended or not, and that is what will go on the ballot. And the last general excuse me, the last general comment, Elizabeth Sides wrote, I'm writing to support the proposed budget. I am not in favor of SB2. Also supports looking into selling the Bates building, and then thanked us and Neil and Bruce for everyone's hard work. So thank you, Elizabeth, for that nice comment. All right. Moving on to the bond. So I will read the two comments that are specific to the bond. And then we have one proposed amendment from the public. I'm going to mute for 1 second to clear my throat here. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see the comments, two comments. The first one's submitted by Scott Zipke. I will read these. So this says, it's unconscionable to me the town select board is asking for a second road bond of approximately $2 million within 4 years of the initial bond, all during the time of massive upheaval with the school budget. These two budgets do not live in vacuums, incomparable to each other. Fact of the matter is, this road bond will increase my tax rate by about 30 cents for a handful of road repairs, while the entire pared down school budget would increase my tax rate by only 7 cents. To ask for or to fixing, I'm getting an echo. Is anyone else? Okay. To ask for or to vote for fixing of culverts to the tune of millions of dollars when the townspeople refuse to fund very basic and pared down school operating budget is the height of hypocrisy. The second comment on this, Mr. Moderator, this is from Josh Katef. I'm botching that, sorry. Kattef. I find it mind-boggling, unfathomable, and sad that Hopkinton has reached a situation where we're proposing a 0-year solution for our schools, while at the same time proposing a 100-year solution for our road culverts. Thank you for those comments. And now the one proposed amendment. This is from Arnold Coda. And he says, the town has deferred addressing the need for years. We're now at the point we can no longer be ignored. It can no longer be ignored. In considering a bond issue, we need additional information. Some roads require complete reconstruction that include drainage work. Gould Hill Road is a prime example. Yet the referenced report does not specify reconstruction or drainage. There is a category reclaim and rebuild. The board needs to explain what that means. Is needed drainage included? The review of roads and cost estimates now are some 9 months old. Should they be updated? Should the town retain a consultant for this work? C, is our DPW equipped to do some or all of the work? Moreover, it has and will have other work and projects to undertake. Will it have time to undertake the listed work? Is the work going to be bid to road contractors, all or some? Okay, those were the comments. And now on to two proposed amendments. Arnold has asked that both be presented to voters on the ballot, but again, with our process in accordance with state law, that will not be an option. So 1, move to amend Article 3 as follows: increase the amount to be bonded by 3.2 million, with the total then being 5 million. B, move to amend Article 3 as follows: increase the amount to be bonded by 400,000, with the total then being 2.2 million. So that's it from the outside on the bond. I would just address a couple of Arnold's questions. I think I can off the top. We've been we've been talking to DPW, and I know that some of the reports are older, but we know, I mean, everything is up to date, right, Neil, in terms of like what culverts need to be done and prioritized pretty recently. Okay.
You're muted, Neil.
Yes, it is. The culverts, the culverts included in this are also have it that are when it's required. Engineers have done the estimates, and like Briar Hill has all been engineered.
Mm-hmm. And my understanding is like our crew does work where it makes sense and is cost effective, and then we bring in outside contractors when we need to, or if it's something that will take up too much of their time or whatever. That's right. Yeah, right. Okay.
That is
Yeah, if I can add somewhat to that, the culverts, yes, we bid out, and Weaver Brothers will be doing at least the Briar Hill ones. And as far as when we get to paving, that's also bid out, and GSI does that. And our town crews do what they can. And his other question about reclaim and rebuild, does that include drainage? And my answer is yes.
Yeah, can I just ask a clarifying question also? I know that, sort of getting to Mr. Kateff's point about the 100-year solution, these culverts are and we talked about this a lot, the engineered concrete box culverts that are designed to, like, in our lifetimes and probably our children's lifetimes, never have to be replaced again, which is why they are as expensive as they are. But I am wondering if we have a sense of like what would be the repercussions if we just replaced I'm assuming what's there now is kind of the typical corrugated steel pipe, or what would be the ramifications of replacing what's there with just a new version of what's there, or something less than that, or is that possible?
it would not meet DES requirements. So this is kind of what's required. But if we don't have to do that, like on Kearsarge, that will just be replaced. That's being done.
Well, that's done. Yeah.
With the plastic piping. Corrugated metal isn't used anymore, but so anywhere that it's possible to not do a box culvert.
That's what we're doing.
And in some cases, we even were able to shorten it to make sure it wasn't a bridge to meet more requirements. It's just a box culvert. If it's under 10 feet, it's a box culvert is doable.
Right. Thank you. And then just Arnold asked, what does reclaim and rebuild mean? And essentially, from my understanding, and you have people who have been doing this longer than I have, but my understanding is essentially you're grinding up the current pavement and you're sort of compacting it back down onto the road and adding new asphalt on top. Right?
And you're also addressing drainage.
It depends on the case. If you can do that, yes. Sometimes there's no base. A lot of these roads were filled in with stumps and all sorts of things.
Right.
So
Right.
if there's no base, then you have to actually take the muck out and put in a real base when it's being reconstructed.
Okay. Great.
I don't know if does anybody know the response to Arnold's question about if DPW has the time to undertake these jobs if the bond is passed?
So DPW won't be doing these, right? Because these are because they are these larger culverts and Tyler Bridge. That's not stuff that our DPW can do in-house. So that will be contracted out.
I believe they do some of the prep work, and then the contracting company takes over from there. And that's what's been done in the past. DPW does what they can because it's more cost effective for the town.
Can I just make a general comment observation also, which is that I actually don't disagree with either of the comments about this, that I do see the hypocrisy of stripping the school budget and yet putting millions of dollars towards our roads. I think they're not wrong. But I also think that we as a select board have wrestled with this for months now. And I think we have come to our number of 1.8, taking into, looking at both types of comments that we just received, that our roads need attention and have needed attention for years. A lot of this is past due, to Mr. Coda's point, but on the other hand, these are really difficult times. And so we've decided to lower the amount of the budget of the bond from the original. Partly it was a nice coincidence that Kearsarge Ave was able to be done as it was. But I do think that where we landed is an appropriate middle ground. And, I can absolutely appreciate where all three of these commenters are coming from. But I think it's our job to balance those and look at the big picture at the same time as do our duty to the town. And I think that where we've landed has done that fairly well, because these are not just questions of filling potholes, or it's not when any of these culverts or bridges fail, which they're all in need of repair. If and when they fail, it's not something that you can just drive around. These end up with road closures like we saw in Stickney Hill. And it becomes a public safety issue. And I don't think anybody wants to go through that again. So that, I just think that we've done our best to balance the needs on this particular issue.
I agree with you, Anna. And the budget committee also has the responsibility for balancing the tax impacts of the schools and the town and the precincts. And remind everybody, the budget committee has supported this item 9-0.
Right.
Yeah, and thanks for flagging that, Ken. I would echo much of what you said, Anna. I mean, when we first debated this last fall, we did get some public comments that, some people think we just have underfunded our paving and roads and all the projects. So we've gotten to this place where we're really behind and we would need a massive amount of money to be able to do everything that needs to be done. So we felt like the bond, though, was the best way to balance, not having a huge tax increase on the town side. So once we got to that point, which was even a struggle in and of itself, then, I would say B or 2 of our sort of our framework for looking at things tonight, something, COVID did affect this, as it did our looking at the budget again. And so that's how we dropped down even further, which I also struggled with, because I kind of felt like if we were going to do this was sort of my argument last fall too, is we might as well go in a little more and get a little more money so that we can actually do some of these things that really need to be done. But I appreciate Arnold's comments, and I just think at this point where we are, it would be tough to increase it. Certainly 5 million, I think, would be hard. But I think nothing has really changed between when we landed on the 1.8, right? And where we are now, besides this one comment on it. So I think I'm okay with staying where we are, but that's my comments on it. Steven?
I appreciate all these comments. These are all things, as has been said, that we struggled with back when we arrived at a number to put on the warrant back in January or whenever it was, or February. So, I think bumping it up to 5 is that's a huge tax hit. And I think if we do that, my fear is that the bond will be voted down. And again, this is not your traditional meeting, so you know, if it's voted down, it's voted down. Actually, it would be if it was a just traditional meeting anyways, but I mean, it couldn't be amended anymore. And so I think the increase to 5 is just too much for the current circumstances that we're under. And, you know, to be, I guess, kind of candid, you know, I think it's pretty obvious that we have underfunded road work in town. I mean, we wouldn't have an outstanding project list that comes close to $8 million. I mean, that's just an accurate statement. But now does not feel like the time to be asking the taxpayers to catch us up. And we got to the 1.8 number because we felt like it was basically the bare minimum of what we absolutely had to do to keep people safe and allow them to access their homes and, you know, emergency services, vice versa. And so I'm not even comfortable bumping this back up to 2.2. And I think my real, I mean, I'd love to do it, you know, if this was pre-COVID, you know, I was like, we were all comfortable with the other number, obviously, but if this was pre-COVID, I'd say yes, 2.2 is the number, the lowest number I would be comfortable with. But where the school, to kind of bring the school back in here, where the school district hasn't even passed their budget yet, I don't feel comfortable personally increasing the tax burden on people and then them having to go and vote for the school budget in a couple weeks. So for both of those suggested amendments, I'm not in favor of either one, and I don't think that the majority of the voters would be in favor of them either.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts?
No, I gave no thought to increasing to 5 million. It just doesn't seem practical or viable. The, you know, possibility of going back to 2.2, I just don't think it's the right time. I mean, we struggled hard to get here among ourselves over 2 or 3 meetings to try and cut that back to where we could be a little bit more comfortable. And I think we are comfortable. So I would vote to keep it at 1.8 million.
Yeah, and I just, you know, one other thought on this sort of philosophically a little bit is, you know, roads, it's just hard. Like, they're expensive. And I look at Gould Hill, they just restriped the yellow line. It'll be gone in like a month. And we've got, you know, you have these huge rainstorms and then the side of the road gets hollowed out and they fix it. And then it happens, you know, not too long later. Same with like, you know, winter weather causes all sorts of problems. And so it's not like it's been mismanaged in any way. I don't think it's like just a really hard thing to keep up with. To have like, you know, perfectly nice paved roads is expensive. And it's every year, if you're talking about, you know, choosing between 2 really hard things, I think unfortunately DPW takes the hit a lot of the time because you can drive slower around potholes, you know? So it's just a thought that like, this is just another one of those things. Being in a small town, it's super hard to keep up with, and roads are just difficult and expensive. So anyway, so I think, I mean, it sounds like we're all in general agreement that we want to amend our original 2.2 down to 1.8.
Yes.
So
It sounds like we're ready to vote, but I just have one more quick thing to add just in general on roads, which is, I think now that we have this list of priorities from Dan Blanchett and DPW, and we know that we haven't been able to fund as much road, you know, repair as we need to. I think this board, at least I would very much like to be more proactive about figuring out what can be done in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. I think there's, you know, room for improved planning in that realm of infrastructure improvements. So when we are not in crisis mode, the pandemic, and trying to deal with town meeting, hopefully that time will come in the not too distant future, and hopefully I'll still be on the board. I would like to think about tackling that sort of capital improvement planning when it comes to highway. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I feel bad. I think Dan, they do an amazing job, especially with, weather affects DPW more than almost anything else in town. And they do an amazing job with what they have. And I feel kind of badly that their budget, I feel like it's sliced every year. But I agree, Anna. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's something we really need to do. Okay, so process-wise, should I read the new amended article and then we vote on it? I think.
sounds reasonable.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So this will be our amended Article 3. And this will be on its own separate ballot because of that's required under the law. Okay, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $1,800,000 gross budget for the planning, design, rehabilitation, for the planning, design, rehabilitation. Should there be a comma there, or is design rehabilitation a thing?
I think it needs a comma.
Yeah, so design, rehabilitation.
I'm not voting for that comma.
No comma, no vote.
Yeah.
And construction of existing town roads, bridges, and culverts. Thank you, Neil. And to authorize the issuance of not more than $1,800,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, as amended. To authorize the select board to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all laws applicable to the project. To authorize the select board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the select board to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. This is 2/3 ballot vote required. So we should vote on the amended article. So,
And I just have another quick sort of procedural question. So the budget, this says the select board and budget committee recommend this article. Now that it's been amended, can we say that the budget committee still recommends this article?
Yes, because this is what I presented to the budget committee. And they voted, they voted 9-0.
So if we were to amend something to read differently than what you presented to them, let's answer that question when we get to it.
That would, the budget committee approval would have to come off.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't have voted on it.
Okay. All right.
okay. So can I just say, like, do I need to make like a separate motion process-wise, do we think, or just say all those in favor of approving the amended Article 3 as I just read it? No. Jeff's shaking his head no.
The rules require that we have a vote, we all vote on every, it's like,
Right. So I just didn't know if I needed to do like a separate motion or if my reading it and then just saying.
Do we need a motion and a second? And
Yeah,
we
okay.
accept the changes to Article 3 that Sabrina just read.
great,
Yeah.
second.
Perfect. All right.
That one.
Yes, Jeff,
Yes,
Stephen,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
and Ken.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay. Move on to Article 4. SB2, we have one comment. Huh. Thought there was
Sabrina, if you would like other people to read comments so that you don't lose your voice, you're welcome to ask
I'm
us.
probably
to do
sick
that
of
as
hearing my voice too.
Do you want me to read this one since I presented it?
Yes, thank
Good
you,
way to do it.
Stephen.
Okay. So did you start by reading the article as it was proposed?
I think I started, I did not, no, I didn't read it.
Okay.
So,
All right, so we got one comment on Article 4. This is from Pat Sangillo, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Patricia, actually, Sangillo, from 8 Winter Drive. Regarding SB2, I'm against it. However, I also sympathize with the elderly and disabled being unable to endure the length of our face-to-face town meetings. Next year, would it be possible to have a hybrid meeting, face-to-face with live streaming? I realize the issue would be how those on stream would then vote, but we have a year to figure that out. Also, under the current statutes, would New Hampshire state law allow such a meeting with or without the ability to vote? Thank you for a well-run and informative meeting.
There's one other SB2 comment in the general comments from Elizabeth Sides,
That's right.
and says, I'm not in favor of SB2.
So I think, I mean, just to address some of her comments, I think on Monday night, we talked about, you know, whether it's possible to have a Zoom type meeting for town meetings going forward. And I think town council said it wasn't necessarily clear whether we had that authority or not. That's kind of one answer. And then, you know, there is this question though, which has come up before about the board improving the kind of remote listening or watching of town meeting. And I think that's something that we certainly could look into and hopefully do. And if the Zoom style is not legally permissible, then hopefully with better streaming, you know, people can be following along at home. And if they feel the need to hop in the car or walk or ride their bike to get to the high school to vote, they can do that. I think that's all of the questions that she had.
so do we need to, this and vote on this one, even though we're not making any, I mean, we're not making any
You
changes?
can't amend this one.
Right,
so,
right, okay.
Yeah.
We're not, anyway. Okay, so we're good on, any other discussion on SB2? Okay, thank you, Stephen.
So
Ken,
do you
wanna-
want me to, I'll take the lead on this one?
Yeah, so we had one proposed amendment on Article 5.
Right, this is from Judy Case. I am making a motion to amend Article 5, move to reduce the operating budget of $7,703,736 by $74,739, thus removing the merit increases completely. The new budget number under this motion would then be $7,629,997. Given that many of our townspeople have lost or have seen a severe reduction of income, it hardly seems fair to grant raises to town employees. Most industries have either eliminated raises or have given only a token raise, 1%. I'll note that the number she's proposing the operating budget be reduced to is actually higher than the number that we've reduced it to ourselves. We reduced it, and when I presented, I recommended a number of $7,520,646. So I don't think her intent is to increase the budget. But as far as the $74,739 merit increase, that is in our amended budget. And as I had noted in the presentation, we had promised that and given that to our town employees back in early April. And at that point, we assumed that COVID was going to be of short duration.
So, yeah, I think we all felt like it was already in place and it didn't seem right or fair to sort of retract that. Also, just the raises were, she says 1% is a token raise, but the merit increases were 3%.
The average actually came out a little bit below 3%.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear. I don't want people to think everyone got like a 10% raise. It was still relatively small.
And just for general information, remind people that our town employees are not unionized and they don't get any kind of automatic step increases or cost of living increases. It's basically it's the merit pool.
I mean, knowing what we know now about COVID and all this other stuff, I guess the question is, do we feel it's worth reducing our revised numbers even further?
Well, go ahead,
Go
Ken.
ahead. I was just going to say, I certainly can't see taking this 74,000 so away from our town employees at this point where we gave it to them. It may be that when we look at the situation for next year, we'll take into account, yes, they got an increase this year, maybe they don't get anything next year.
I mean, the other thing to think about is, and I don't disagree with that, Ken, you know, the other thing to think about is, you know, is it possible to trim the budget by that amount, but just take it from someplace else? Because I don't think that, and maybe I'm speculating here, but I don't think Judy is saying that our employees are not deserving of this money. I read this amendment and comment to be, you know, the overall number is too high, and she wants to see it reduced by that amount. So is there some?
Except Stephen, her total number is higher than where we landed. So
Our proposal.
Right, but I don't know if she was.
That's not a fair comparison.
Yeah, I just don't know if she was aware of what we were going to reduce it to. So I read it as assuming that whatever number we are proposing, she wants it reduced by just shy of $75,000.
I agree with that interpretation. I mean, she's pretty clear. Town employees have seen a severe, in town have seen a severe reduction in income. Hardly seems fair to grant raises to town employees. That's pretty clear. She wants the 75,000 out because she doesn't think we should be giving raises in this economy. You know, I mean, this was before I got on the board, but you know, when I started on the board, Ken used to come in every meeting with the current unemployment statistics and how bad townspeople were hurt. And so, I mean, I understand Judy's point in this recommendation.
I would just say, though, I think it is very specific. I mean, she doesn't say, I want to see the budget come down by this much because townspeople are hurting. It's very specific to the issue. She thinks it's unfair that town employees would get a raise.
Well, that's one of the bullet points in the presentation the other night was merit raises of 74,739. That's how
I guess I would characterize it a little less broadly. I think it's pretty clear. It's specific. Like my sense is that if she was truly concerned with $75,000, it might have begun with, I think the budget's too high and we need to reduce it. Here's a place you could do it. But this seems to me like, you know, she doesn't think town employees should get a raise. And that's a fair argument. Like a lot of people think that. My issue is we already did it. So it's not like we just decided now to do it. Like it's already part of people's paycheck right now. And it seems kind of wrong to claw that back in this moment. And it also, I don't know. I mean, you know, most industries have eliminated raises or given token raises of 1%, but I would say, again, like town government, similar to the schools, it's not like most industries. It's not like we don't have ways to like make money. It's not like our CEO can cut their salary to pay the, you know, so it's just different. I don't think it's apples to apples there. So I don't think we should do this, but I also just want to be clear. I think that like, I think the position is it's unfair for them to get raises, and that's a fair position, but it seems to me that's the concern and less concern about the actual
Well,
dollar amount.
And until you just said it, Sabrina, I had forgotten that we're already in this budget year and we've already given these raises. That it's part of the budget, but we had to start without a budget because of COVID. And so, I mean, that's, yeah, it would be hard to take it back since they've had it for 7 months now. But her, you know, her point is well taken. I mean, the world has gone to hell in a handbasket.
I agree with what everybody's saying, and as I mentioned previously, I think when we get into budgeting for next year, we're going to have to remember this. And it may be that next year, instead, the town employees don't get a merit increase or get 1%, depending on what the situation is.
I think these are all really valid points. And I think the one other thing is that we've more than accounted for this amount in our budget reductions that we've already made. So again, if it is about $75,000, reducing the budget by $75,000 from our original proposed, we've done more than that already.
I'm not comfortable clawing it back from our employees at this point.
I am not either.
So, I mean, I appreciate the comment, but that's just where I am.
And I think Ken's right that, you know, maybe this is part of the equation heading into 21. But yeah, I agree. It feels kind of morally wrong at this point to try to claw that back when we already have, to Anna's point, cut from other places in the budget. This doesn't feel like a very obvious place to cut more, especially since our employees have already gotten it in their paycheck. So is everyone on, we get this, it's a point well taken, but because of where we are in the process and because of the other cuts we've already made, we would not move forward with this amendment.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I move that we amend Article 5 to reflect a budget of $7,520,656.
Second.
Is it 7,520,646?
On my screen, it's 656.
Okay, I'll go with that number. It's $10 difference.
$10.
Okay. So wait, so Jeff made the motion. Did Steven second?
Yes.
Okay. So Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Steven,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes. Oh,
Ken.
Yes.
although our mailer has 646.
So
Maybe we all donate
I tend-
$2.
Yeah,
to the
I'll
town.
pitch in. I'll find you a $2 bill. Fine.
Although maybe Ken should chip in 4 because he's the one that put that together.
I
That's
think
only-
Ken should have to chip in 0 because he has to deal with all of our painful budget presentations.
Agreed. Agreed.
I'll kick in my fair share. No problem. Okay, are we moving on to
Yes,
Article
I
6?
think we're moving on. Thank you.
Okay, Article 6, yeah, I guess we have 2 comments. The first is again from Judy Case. Good morning. I have a question on Article 6. Should the town vote against selling the Bates building, would the $12,500 listed for town hall renovation still be needed? And I can respond to that to just quickly get rid of that. In our revised amount for Article 6, that $12,500 has been eliminated. The
Just to
second,
clarify though, Ken, before we go past this, that 12,500 was not to move the vault, was it? Or create
No.
the new?
No.
I didn't think
No,
so.
no,
Okay, so
that was for needed renovations that
Right.
exist separate and apart from anything to do with the Bates
Right.
building.
Right.
But we decided to zero it out anyway, sadly, in my opinion, but we made that choice already.
the other comment was from Arnold Coda. Mr. Moderator, here are my responses relative to the warrant as presented and discussed by the Zoom meeting on July 20, 2020. Article 6, appropriation to capital reserve funds for library building systems, $20,000. Library Director Donna Dunlap has given me the list of items included in this request. I believe that these items should have been included in the work done after the lightning strike fire, whether or not they were covered by insurance recovery. There were generous contributions from citizens toward costs at that time. Quite possibly contributions would have kicked in another 20,000. If so, there would not be a tax burden now. Please have the Board of Selectmen address this article with specificity. And in response to that, yes, the hearing from Donna Dunlap, the library did receive very generous contributions. I believe they went to either the Library Foundation or the Friends of the Library, not to the town of Hopkinton. And they did cover a lot of renovations and things like that inside the building. And I believe they have utilized all of those donations. Whether or not they could have asked for another 20,000 from someplace, what is the town's responsibility and what should be coming from contributions is the question that's up in the air. I know, Neil, you have been corresponding with Donna more than I have. Do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
No, these are part of the CIP plan, the things that they're doing, and so that's in their plan, and this funds that plan.
Time for a motion. I move that we amend Article 6 to reduce the overall amount from $819,000 to $676,500. And that carries through the specific funds that are listed by reducing the new and replacement equipment and vehicles for DPW from 235 to 200, road bridge rehabilitation from 100 to 30,000. Town hall renovations are taken out, as previously mentioned. Fire department vehicle and equipment acquisitions from 277,500 to 262,500. And then dam maintenance and construction is removed as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
yes,
Stephen,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is Article 7, appropriation to expendable trust funds. And the only comment is again received by Arnold Coda. Article 7, appropriation to expendable trust funds for library building and grounds, 41,000. For Director Dunlap, this is for restaining the exterior. The exterior has not been done since original construction in 1998. Why? This is akin to town roads not being maintained routinely. is there no plan for routine maintenance, staining, painting included? Is there such a plan now? And I would say there is a plan for maintenance, and it falls under this through the CIP for expendable trust funds as well as capital reserve funds. And when I guess at the time contractors were in after the fire, they noted to Donna that the staining should be done as soon as possible to protect the integrity of the library exterior. The shingles are beginning to warp and crack, and the building had not been restained since it was built in 1995, though it has been trim has been repainted since then. And actually, Donna has gotten 3 bids to do this work. Chose the lowest bid from a local contractor, Chris Wardell. And part of the problem is, again, on our priority, select board's priority list, should this have been done a couple of years ago? And just like should more have been spent on roads in the past, it was an article that, finally came to the point where it had to be addressed now.
All right, thank you, Ken. So yeah, we have no amendments there. Okay, good.
We need to vote on that, not amending, or?
No, we didn't vote on, I can't remember which
Right,
one.
well, SB2 was a petition.
No,
so
but
we-
there was, oh, I thought there was another one that had no amendments. Am I wrong? Huh. Oh, you're
I
right.
think we need to vote on. No,
Okay, so if
Nope.
we're not, yeah.
Okay. So would you like me to read it, Sabrina?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Okay, Article 7, appropriation to expendable trust funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $71,500 to be added to previously established expendable trust funds as follows. Library buildings and grounds, $41,000. Town facilities maintenance, $25,000. Recreational facilities, $5,500, for a total of $71,500. And this article we did not amend it, so it's still with, originally the select board had recommended this Article 5-2. And similarly, the budget committee originally supported this article 10-0. And a week and a half ago supported it 9-0, just due to an absence on the committee. So I'll move we continue to recommend this article at the 71,500 level.
Second,
I guess, great. Sabrina's yes. Jeff,
yes.
Stephen,
yes.
Anna,
Yes,
Ken.
Yes.
Thank you, Ken. All right, on to the Bates Building. So we have 4. Oh, we actually have 6. Okay. So I think I'll read a couple of these. I think raise some common themes I've heard from people and things we heard Monday night. So the first one, I won't read the entire thing, but this is from Lester Cressy. He says he's convinced there are very few people that want to see Bates Building sold. There's no viable plan to replace the vault for the town records. We do not have a good solution for town clerk, tax collector office. Town hall is not a suitable building to transform into a modern office building, and what has already been done has ruined the historical value of the building. Parking is not suitable with using the side of Main Street, especially in the winter. Town clerk is asked to move back to Bates. The select board ignores her issues. The supervisors of the checklist need a place to work and keep their records. which is not available in town hall. I think we need to listen to people who are going to be affected, not people that just want to see a change. He says his idea next year is to plan ahead and start saving for a new town office building, starting a capital reserve fund, and within a few years, build a modern office building with a concrete/steel vault for records, energy efficient building that would serve this town for years to come. Ideal location would be in the open field in front of the library on Houston Drive, where there's plenty of room for both a building and parking. The issue came about due to reaction instead of being proactive, and in my mind has caused a lot of problems that were not thought through. Here's a shorter one. This is from Patricia Sangillo. She said, even though I'm not in favor of selling Bates, regarding the secure storage of town's archival materials, is it possible to build a fireproof vault somewhere in the new Hopkinton Library building? Since the new library is on a hill, if it has a basement and the basement is beneath the hill, would it be easier to put a secure vault there? Thank you for a well-run meeting. Okay, the next one's Roland Dubois. He says it was suggested at the Zoom meeting that the town of Hopkinton owns a number of properties in addition to the Bates building that could potentially be sold to generate revenue. Such properties may have been acquired through donation or as a result of non-payment of taxes. Aside from the property adjacent to Kimball Pond that is currently rented and the Kimball cabins and associated land, please identify these properties if they exist and explain if there's a particular reason why the select board is focused on selling Bates rather than these other buildings. And his second part of his comment is, historically, the high school and Columbia Hall, together with Bates and the fire station, represented a considerable town presence in the center of downtown Kentucky. With two of these four buildings now gone, the Bates building takes on added importance for the town. The building could be put to a myriad of beneficial uses in the future. Potential uses are not knowable at this time, but the building should be retained by the town. And okay, so actually, maybe I'll stop there because there's still a few more comments and just address a couple of these. So in terms of this one, the specific question about town property, as far as I know, I don't think we have any other buildings that are town owned that don't have like an obvious purpose, like obviously the fire station. And I'm laughing at Jackson. Hey, Jackson. The police station, but otherwise there's the one real estate building that's been discussed that's connected to Kimball Cabins and cannot be subdivided. But otherwise, Neil, it's not like we have like other buildings that are just sitting around that don't have like a very specific use, right?
No, there is some land, but no buildings.
Okay, so that's the answer to the first, on this third comment. His first part says, explain if there's a reason we're focused on selling Bates rather than these other properties. The answer is there aren't other properties that could be sold at this point. And then the comment about the high school, Columbia Hall, and Bates and the fire station. I mean, I think interesting thought, but I guess, you know, there's lots of important buildings in Kentucky and on Main Street in Hopkinton. And, you know, we have the, obviously still have high school and the fire station and the library and the post office all in Kentucky. So I'm not sure if anyone else wants to comment on that, but I think that there's plenty of town presence in Kentucky. So, okay. I will finish. The next three are pretty short and then we can discuss. All right, so this is from Arnold Coda. He says, do not sell the building unless there's a secure and totally fireproof area, whether a vault or room, storage of records currently existing and future records that are required to be kept in those the town wishes to keep. Is there a New Hampshire statute that defines requirements for such a space? Really quickly on that, I don't think there's statute that defines anything around how archives are kept. I think there is a relevant state law about where they're kept and who has access to them. So we can talk about that a little more. And let's see, there's two more short comments here. Ralph Case, regarding Article 8, I'd like more financial information to make an informed decision. He says, what is the current financial impact to the town of carrying the building, annual operating and other expenses, rent and other income received? quickly on that, we're getting rent under fair market value, $400 a month currently, month to month. And then annual operating and other expenses, I think our annual upkeep, it's $4,600, I think.
Just
Neil's
under
around-
44.
What was that, Anna?
Just under 4,400.
Yeah, okay, so 40, under 4,400 for annual operating other expenses, although we will have, like, the boiler is gonna need to be replaced soon, so there will be some big ticket items that will need to be fixed in the future. And then he says, what is the expected financial impact from the sale? Net proceeds from the sale, costs associated with the sale, like subdivision, and with adapting to continuing town business without the building, moving the safe, finding other spaces for meetings, etc. So I think the building's assessed at, with the piece of land that's on, that would have to be subdivided. The assessment's $318,000. So I think our estimate is that we would be able to sell it somewhere in that ballpark. And the only, I think the costs that would, so the proceeds would be split if it was approved between the town library and town hall. And in terms of costs, I don't know, I haven't seen an estimate for the cost of subdividing, but I can't imagine it would be super expensive. I think it would be like a few
Phenomenal.
our council's time going before the planning board.
Or a new survey, but not, I mean, we're talking like a couple to a few $1,000s, right? We're not talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think the bigger ticket item is the vault and having to, so we talked about this Monday that the estimate is, I think, 8,300 for changing the second floor so that it could accommodate the archives. I think we need to discuss that quite a bit more. So I'll just put that number out there to answer his questions. And the last one, this is from Sue Strickford. I'd like to ask Article 8 be tabled by the selectmen. There's a lack of planning at Bates and Town Hall. The building was given to the town and a very well-constructed vault was built for all the valuable old records of town. If the property is subdivided and sold, it eliminates parking used by the events in the village and the churches. And she commented about not cutting up Town Hall anymore and put offices back and do not squeeze anything more into the building. So,
So we can't table the article.
no, so yes, that's, thanks for pointing that. So on that one specific point, we can't table it, so we know that. I think, you know, some of these I think the vault is a huge issue. I think I'm interested in this idea about like the location, like Pat Sangilo's comment asked about moving it to the library. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I'm wondering about like, is there a way to have a vault that's not town hall? So I want to talk about that a little bit more. And then I would just add, so responding to Lester Cressy's comments, that I would say we've had, you know, I don't want to like belabor this because I don't think this is actually what we're here to discuss, but there are people who think the clerk should be moved back to Bates. But I just want to clarify that we have had ongoing discussions. We have discussed that at great length. And I think particularly during the time of COVID, it was impossible to move them back, even if we had decided to do that. And so I would say, I don't think it's a correct characterization to say that, you know, we ignore these issues. That's not the case. We've discussed them at great length. There are many reasons why it does not make sense to move the town clerk tax collector back to Bates. I think the supervisor of the checklist workspace issue is very real. And we have to discuss that, but anyway, so I think we answered most of the like specific questions in here. So I think in my mind, the biggest things are the archives in the vault, and town hall, and whether or not town hall could accommodate what we needed to accommodate in terms of the supervisors of the checklist. That said, I don't think that's what is like in front of us in this moment, because I'm not sure, we can't table this. And so I think we could, I guess I'm trying to think through what our options even are. Because that was the only specific ask, was to table it. I mean, besides people saying they don't think it should be sold, but just to not go like too off the rails on this, I think, does anyone have thoughts about like potential changes to this article? I guess I'll start there.
I don't think it makes sense to amend this article because people will either agree that we should go forward and start ticking off the boxes that need to happen to sell the building, or they don't, and so they'll vote no. And so I don't know that there is a middle ground between those two. And so all these points are well taken. I don't say that to diminish what these people are contributing to the discussion. But I just don't see any sort of a compromise that would work for this particular warrant article.
And I mean, I certainly would have liked the option to table this because I think there have been a lot of good points, raised that we weren't able to respond to because we've been distracted by COVID. So at a minimum, I would suggest that we, re-vote on whether or not we're recommending this for passage.
That seems fair.
Oh, and Sabrina, when you were referring to Mr. Case's question and responding to the net proceeds from the sale, and you mentioned 300-some thousand, did that take into account after it was subdivided?
Yes.
Yeah, so our estimated assessed value of what the subdivided plot with that building, the building's assessed at 250,000. And so the estimate we come up with Neil is 318,000 as the assessed value of that whole thing, the property, the building plus the land.
Right. So
And
after the
what-
parking lot and gazebo is taken out.
Right, and we don't obviously don't know what it would sell for, but I would think not under the assessed value at this point.
Okay, I just, wanted some clarification on that. Thank you.
Jeff, do you have thoughts
Have many.
want to share?
I appreciate people's comments, and I certainly understand the concern over the archives and this vault. I do think we need to resolve that before we sell the building. But that said, this doesn't say we have to sell this article doesn't say we have to sell the building by the end of the year or by the end of next year. It gives us the power to sell it when we've solved the problems. And I don't think any of us on this board wants to be the person who causes the records or the archives to be lost. And so we're going to solve the vault problem before the building is sold. I don't know how else to put it. It would be foolhardy of us to try to sell the building before the vault problem was. And I understand the need for space for the supervisors of the checklist. Certainly that's important as well. But I still support this article and that we should put it on the ballot and not table it. And I hope that we vote unanimously to sell it.
To authorize us, because that is key. I agree with you completely. That was my position last year too, is just that our hands are tied at the moment, and this is to authorize us. And I agree 100% about the archives. And I think that it's very real that if we try to solve the archive issue and the supervisor of the checklist issue, and it turns out that like this year we cannot make it work with town hall, then I can't imagine any one of us saying now's the time to sell this building. But until like we are authorized, it means we're just going to be in this perpetual cycle of us not being able to really do anything with that building besides, sort of month to month leases. And so anyway, I agree with you, Jeff. So let's see, Anna or Steven, do you guys have?
Yeah. So I agree with everything that Jeff has said, Sabrina, Stephen. I fully agree. And I think, so what we're looking at, so people are questioning sort of the reasoning for why this is even an option. And I think first and foremost, we have to understand, and I would like people listening to understand, that the town clerk tax collector's office is going to be staying at town hall for the foreseeable future for a lot of reasons. There's safety and efficiency are the top among them. So when we consider that use that we previously had for the Bates building is no longer appropriate, what we're left with is a building that, yes, houses a vault, and that's very, very important. And I completely agree that we would never, this board for certain, would never proceed with a sale before figuring out those details and finding a solution to the issue of the town archives. And I think that is an issue that is not insurmountable. You know, while people have said that they think the solution of the upstairs at town hall is not a good one, okay, fine. If people think, and if, you know, the archives committee, which exists now and hopefully will work on this issue, if they think that is not sufficient, okay, we'll find a way. I just think that we have creativity and technology on our side, and we will absolutely find a way to do that. We also have, yes, the issue of the supervisors of the checklist. Again, we'll make it work. We will find space that works. There are other buildings. There is the second floor at Town Hall, which currently does need work. But again, were the proceeds for this, from this sale to become available, they would go into these much needed renovations for Town Hall. And there are renovations that are needed, as I said before, sort of separate and apart from the issue of whether or not town clerk tax collector's office is there. Given that it's going to be there, we need to work to accommodate it. I think one of the best possibilities for funding that work is to use the proceeds from the sale of the Bates building. Because as it sits right now, the Bates building is going to be costing the town money. It's currently not, because we're covering that with rent, but that won't hold steady. There are costs that will arise. Sabrina mentioned the boiler. You know, it's a building that's going to need some upkeep, and either the taxpayers have to absorb those costs, or those costs have to be passed on to any tenant that occupies that space. So I think, you know, if we are concerned about revenue in this town, this is an option that we need to be considering. And at the same time, acknowledging that there are issues that go along with it, but which can be solved. And we're not going to solve them in a vacuum. There are a lot of people involved in this move of the archives and space for the supervisors. So I think working together, I do think that we can make it work. But I think, again, we're a little hamstrung right now because we can't even proceed to probate. We can't subdivide. So, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, we can't spend money on the things, on the research that we need to do to find these solutions. So we need authorization to do that, to proceed down this road. So that is why I am in favor of keeping the article as it reads, and that I will be supporting it.
As I'm listening to this discussion, I'm wondering if we could put in an amendment that would clarify what I hear everybody saying, and that's that, to see if the town would vote to authorize the select board to sell the Bates building after resolving the supervisor of the checklist space issues and the town archives issue.
I would support something like that, that sort of just added, provided a suitable solution can be found for these two issues.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
that reflects, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say, I'm not wed to the language, but that
Yeah.
sounds like what everybody is saying. We wouldn't sell until we resolve these. So why don't we just put that into the article?
Yeah, I think that reflects what we've all expressed to the public is, and I don't want to say it again because all of you said it really well already, but yeah, we're not going to sell the building, snap our fingers and it's gone. We take responsibility for solving these legitimate concerns. So yeah, I would be supportive of that amended language, and then would vote to recommend the article as amended to the public.
I just don't know how that language can be proven, I guess. And what's a satisfactory solution? Who decides if the solution's satisfactory?
Well, we could add
The archive
suitable to the Board of Selectmen, as determined by the Board of Selectmen.
Select board.
Select Board, thank you.
So insensitive.
I know you deal with a lot of towns that are board of selectmen, Stephen.
I should know better.
Our own lawyer says board of selectmen, don't worry. Yeah, no, I had the same thought though, Jeff, as determined who gets to decide that. But I mean, I agree, like in concept, that's 100% accurate that we would want, these things would need to be like, it's a necessity. They would have to be figured out before we pursued any sale. So I'm in favor of putting that in because I think that seems to be like the biggest point of concern. I'm not sure that will satisfy many people, but at least
all we can do for now. You know?
I just want to add, we cannot, as a process issue, because I think for people just tuning in, we cannot table any articles. I just want to be clear about that. I saw a question come in, and somebody else asked about it in the comments. So that is not an option. We can't table this. So we're now discussing if we want to amend the article. It's not an option because it's not legal to table. So I would be in favor of doing something to the effect that Ken mentioned as well. I think we'd have to say as determined by the select board.
I mean, yeah. Are the sort of the parties that have the knowledge mostly about this are the supervisors of the checklist themselves and the archives committee. I know, members on those committees and in those roles fluctuate as well, but I don't know if it's worth specifying or even possible to specify those groups as the ones who, along with the select board, determine, viable solutions to these issues.
In consultation with?
Sure, I like that.
Where does that leave us if they refuse to consult with us? Mr. Attorney.
Well, Well, I'm not going to give the town legal advice.
But you did stay at a Holiday Inn last night.
I did. That's right. I mean, I think that if they decline to communicate with us, I mean, that'll be public knowledge, you know, because we have all our meetings in public. We extend invitations. If they decide they,
But if the amendment to this motion says that we'll solve the problem in consultation with, and they refuse to consult with us, we haven't met the wording of the proposed amendment, is my point.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I understand that argument, but I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
Is there another way to phrase it?
I like the way that Ken kind of proposed it. That made a lot of sense to me.
I'm having I'm digging deep in my memory here. I feel like we discussed something along these lines originally, and we came up with the terms and conditions deemed to be in the best interest of the town as determined by a probate court. Because I feel there was something around the nature of this authorization, and if it was contingent on other things, then it wouldn't really be, I don't know. Is anyone else remembering this? It's like a very fuzzy memory.
I remember it, I guess it was last year, it may have been 2 years ago. I forget, but somebody made a motion on the floor to add some further restrictions. And I think the argument against it was that if the town is gonna go forward with a sale, then, you know, the property would be more marketable if there wasn't an explicit limitation in the warrant article. You know, that the board, the select board understood, for instance, that, you know, the facade is important, or that it you know, there could be other deed restrictions placed on it, but didn't want to have that stated in the warrant article, and instead be something that was negotiated between the board and whoever the buyer is.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I like the concept because that's where all of our heads are, but I share some of Jeff's concern. And I also kind of feel like I'm not sure that adding that is going to change anyone's mind. So, I mean, maybe this is all moot discussion anyway. Well, I don't know. I'm fine with, if others want to amend, I would get on board because I would like to be united on this. So I think we all agree in concept. It's just drafting, and can we live with a little bit of uncertainty around?
One other thought, because I mean, I get the concern over, you know, how to draft this and not put us in a place where we're never able to satisfy it. I mean, we've all publicly stated that this is how we plan to go forward with this. And like I just said, all of our meetings are public. You know, this would not be done in some sort of a back room someplace and then announced all of a sudden. I would hope that the residents in town would take those representations at face value and give us a chance to honor our word and do this in a way that addresses those questions. Because I you know, it's tricky to add the language, you know, that's very true. So that's just another thought, is just, you know, saying to the public, you know, we've said that we want to fix these things. We acknowledge they exist. We're going to do it in consultation with the right individuals and committees. And, you know, put your confidence and your trust in us and let us do it.
And again, I'm not convinced that the wording change is going to swing anyone's vote. It may. I mean, it's certainly the majority of the comments that we got are related to the archives, safety of the documents. We can say that we'll sell it after relocation of the archives.
I'm afraid that the way it reads now, it would be defeated. And I think if we put in the language that, as Stephen said, is, you know, language that, you know, we've agreed to the concept in public, it might reassure enough people that this would pass.
So I'm actually working on a sentence right now to add.
Thank you, Anna.
I do feel this is important to add it, actually, because, well, for a couple of reasons. Not everyone is going to watch this meeting. Not everyone's going to watch the meeting tomorrow night. They're going to pick up, there are going to be a lot of people who pick up a ballot, just print up the ballot, and won't have had the benefit of this conversation or any Q&A that happens tomorrow about it. And it feels important to me to, if we're promising this and we're willing to abide by this, which is providing adequate accommodations for relocating the town archives and adequate space provided for the supervisors of the checklist, as determined by the select board in consultation with the town archives committee and the supervisors of the checklist. I mean, if we're committed to that, then I don't see why we shouldn't put it in writing and let people.
Guys, I need a little more time. Okay?
And
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
You know, why we shouldn't just put it out there and be held to it.
Can you, Anna, can you share your sentence and then we can see if see what we think?
Yeah. A few more words here. And is the official archive, is it the town archives committee? Do we know what the official name is?
Yes, that would cover it.
Okay. And
Neil, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to transcribe what Anna reads,
Yeah,
just so we can see it.
I figured I was ready. I figured.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
okay, so I think you can just put a comma, and then it's going to be a very long sentence, but all these articles are very long.
Sure. Where are we putting a comma?
So just at the very end, and so where it says as determined by the probate court, comma, we may need the word and, provided adequate accommodations can be made for relocating the town archives, and I would capitalize both of those, but later is fine, and adequate space can be provided for the supervisors of the checklist, comma, as determined by the select board in consultation with the Town Archives Committee, and the supervisors of the checklist. That was on the fly, so there may be things that need to be modified, but
Thank you, Anna. I would change one thing and provided adequate accommodations can be made. I would just say can be made for the town archives because I mean, there's a world in which we don't relocate them, but have an arrangement where they stay at Bates. I mean,
what about for like safely,
maybe just provided adequate accommodations can be made.
or preserving
Hmm.
the town archives? Safely preserving
For
or leave or nothing?
preserving, but we're just, I mean, I don't know what goes into them, or they're just like sitting in a vault right now, right? It's not like we have someone who like tends to them. Is that right, Neil?
Right, but they need to be stored in a safe, dry,
So safe storage is safe
Adequate
storage word?
accommodation oh yeah, for the safe storage of the town archives. So adequate accommodations can be made for the safe storage of the town archives.
And I would add the where it says as determined by the select board,
Mhm.
go down. I would add as determined in the sole discretion of the select board.
A comma after board.
Mhm. Yes.
I'll let everybody else wordsmith. I'm happy with where we're at this point.
Yeah, and I guess on the archives thing, I mean, I'm really interested to know what other towns do. I mean, there's lots of historic town halls in New Hampshire. I don't know of any other towns that have a split of town, like in two buildings the way we do in a town this size, but I'm just thinking there must be a way we can properly accommodate for the archives. And I guess just one more comment about town hall, because it is a building that I really love. And I don't think that it has been altered in a way that diminishes its historic value or meaning. And I think that you can change buildings to keep them, it's sort of like anything. It's like a living document. It's like, in order for it to survive, it has to evolve. And so I think that there are ways for us to modify town hall that preserves its historic value and nature, but allows it to accommodate these needs of the town. So just putting that out there is one opinion on that, because I think town hall is wonderful. And I do think that we can make changes while maintaining, its sort of charm and historic value.
Are there any other consulting parties that we should include? I can't think of any, but before we kind of commit to this language, I want to make sure somebody doesn't,
I was wondering that
say
myself.
we missed some really critical person with knowledge or public body or whatever.
I would just note that the town clerk is responsible for the archives, but the town clerk sits on the archive committee by statute.
Okay.
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 Um,
Okay. So are we good with this
I'm
language?
comfortable with this.
I mean, I feel
Whether
like
or
it can't
not
hurt.
it changes the outcome of the vote, I'm not necessarily vested one way or the other, but I think this is an important caveat to add.
Mhm. And I think it better reflects like where our collective heads are.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ken, since you brought this up, do you want to move that we?
Sure.
This?
You have to read the new article.
That would be helpful for anyone on.
Okay. Article 8, authorization to sell the Bates Building. Shall the town authorize the select board to sell the Bates Building, formerly Bates Library, at 846 Main Street, identified on the town tax maps at map 101 lot 085-000 with sufficient land. Further, that the select board shall be authorized to sell such lot upon such terms and conditions which they deem to be in the best interest of the town and as determined by the probate court, and provided adequate accommodations can be made for the safe storage of the town archives and adequate space can be provided for the supervisors of the checklist as determined in the sole discretion of the select board in consultation with the town archive committee and the supervisors of the checklist.
I'll second that with one modification, that it is the town archives committee.
Okay, I accept that.
All right, thank you both. So roll call vote. Sabrina's yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Ken, you're frozen in a delightful
A delightful pose.
That should be his like headshot.
Someone screenshot it right now.
All right, thank you everybody, and thank you everyone who sent in comments on that issue. So no changes. I don't think we have any outside comments until we get to Article 12.
Correct.
So I
Do we have any changes to those articles though?
no, I do want to share that I'm not sure. I received an email about these exemptions today, and I replied to that. This is through the comment form on our website, and I replied to this gentleman asking if he intended if his comments were to be part of the official record of the town meeting, and have not heard a reply. But so I won't read it, but I do want to say he was expressing his gratitude for suggesting the modifications, and suggested that they modifying these in this way may allow him to remain in town for as long as they possibly can. So just thought I would share that in an anonymous way, because I don't know if he intended that to be part of the record or not. But it made me smile.
Thanks for sharing that. So we don't have any changes to 9.
No, 9, 10, and 11, I think are
So can we
unchanged.
just say that 9, 10, and 11 are going to go on the warrant as we originally posted them?
Second.
Thank you. All right, Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Ken's still locked up, is he?
Ken is. Anna, did you get a screenshot of?
I will.
You want me to take over, Brini, for,
Sure.
all right.
Thanks, Stephen.
Article 12, modification of solar. We had one comment slash amendment from Gary Garvin. Dear Mr. Moderator, after listening to Stephen Whitley's presentation of Article 12, I've questioned why the select board would be increasing the tax exemption for solar energy systems. I was under the impression that many town budgets were cut or reduced this year due to the uncertainty of taxpayers' ability to pay property taxes. If the tax exemption for solar installations increases, it means the tax rate will have to rise to make up the difference. I do understand the original exemption may be low, but increasing it to a value of 5 times greater seems excessive and unfair to taxpayers who may not be able to install solar due to location, lack of sun exposure, or the price of installing a system. In order to help those who have already invested or are planning to install a solar energy system, I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 12. He phrases it as an increase of the exemption, but I think what he really means, he's reducing what we proposed. And instead of a cap of $25,000, which is what we have currently proposed, he would reduce that cap to $10,000. And then he sets forth the language of the article, which I'm not going to read. And then he follows it up with, it would also be helpful to know how many taxpayers have applied for the solar energy system exemption. With that information, a tax impact could be figured before and after modification to the warrant article passes. So there's some comments in here. I would say that the comments that he raises, we wrestled with as a board about what was the appropriate figure to have for the solar exemption. In recognizing that $5,000 doesn't cover much, certainly not all of some of these systems, but not wanting, so we're wanting to promote it, but not wanting to do it to a degree that it put a unreasonable tax burden on the rest of the residents in town. Neil, do you know about the how many taxpayers have applied for this so far?
There are 60
60?
that are currently 60.
Okay, and what was the total amount of the exemptions?
5,000, so it's 300,000.
Oh, they all got the full exemption?
They did at 5,000. They did, yes.
Okay.
We don't know. I don't have. So if it were 60 at 25,000, that jumps.
It'd be $1.5 million.
Yeah. So it's $1.2 million is the difference in assessed value, which has just about a $35,000 impact.
In tax revenues?
Correct. At the 2019 tax rate.
Okay.
Do we
I don't
know
know
the
if-
average
what
value
you
of a
said-
system?
Oh, go ahead.
We know the average value of an installed system?
It's around 50 to 60,000.
Really?
When we had the discussion about this, I think one thought was that having this higher exemption would incent more people to invest in solar so that it would generate additional property revenues.
What's the current assessed value of the town, Neil?
777 million approximately.
It's a little more. That was last year. It's a little more now. It's maybe 0.8.
780 something.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry, 780 something. I have it in like 6 different spreadsheets. I could find one right
Yeah, I'm
now.
looking at
Did you?
this too.
Oh, so 786, 490. 786 million,
400.
500 basically.
So as a percentage of the total assessed value of the town, a change in 1.2 million of assessed value. I'm struggling to do the back of the envelope math on that, but it's a pretty small percentage.
I know you
Depends.
have it. I was gonna say, I know you have it, Jeff. I can see your wheels turning. My numbers, man.
I mean, you know, we're back to the issue of, can we afford it? When we passed it, things look different than they look today. Are we willing to give up the revenue this year of, what'd you say, Neil, 35,000 at the last year's tax rate?
That's correct.
I mean, I don't know that we are. You know, Mr. Garvin's amendment makes some sense in terms of financial sense for us.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, you know, the land use issue is sort of the most similar in some ways because it's dealing with environment. I'm sorry about the slamming door. I agree with Jeff, and I think this is one where, in thinking about our framework, it does seem like we, you know, living in a COVID world now, like this is one that I could see changing. Like this may not be the year to do it as we've proposed.
It is, you know, I reluctantly agree. You know, I really want to promote solar, but changing this in some manner, maybe not to 10,000, but changing this in some manner than what we've presented is consistent with what we're saying we're going to do with the land use change tax. And so it makes sense to do something similar here.
I'd similarly be supportive of a reduction from what we were proposing pre-COVID.
I would as well, even though it's not in my best financial interest, seeing as I just installed a solar system. But I agree, it's not about me, never about me.
So let's see, has everyone, it seems like we're all agreeing concept. Ken, I had someone slamming my door, I'm sorry, so I didn't have full attention here the whole time. Did you already speak on this, Ken?
Yes, I agreed with the concept of reducing the exemption since we're in different times, as Jeff said.
Mm-hmm.
People comfortable with 10, with that number?
I'd say I'm comfortable with that because it is doubling what we have now.
Was Gary Garvin suggesting we go back down to 5,000?
No, he suggested going to 10.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just.
And I think considering that we got no other comments whatsoever about this, either saying it's too high or too low. I think doubling the exemption amount is perfectly reasonable.
Based on the installed base plus Anna system, it'll cost us a tick under 9,000 versus the 35 or 36,000 if we went to a $25,000 exemption. So I'm okay with the 10.
I make a motion that we amend Article 12 to change the cap on the assessed value to reduce it from 25,000 to 10,000.
I'll second that.
Okay. Sabrina is yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Gary Garvin, for sending in that thoughtful comment and amendment. Okay, so Article 13, modifying the land use change tax percentage. So this is one that we had set at 100% in pre-COVID times because we're currently at 35%, and we looked at a comparison to other towns, and I think we were on the low side. So we have some debate initially. I think I actually had suggested 50% or 75% earlier on, and we went with 100 because it's not a huge amount of money. But now that we're back in COVID, now that we're in COVID times, I should say, when we were looking at this in the bigger picture of our budget, we actually, I think, accounted for this not changing at all, right, Ken?
That's correct. We assumed in the revised budget 35%.
Yeah. So we do have an amendment proposed by Mark Zinkel. He says, I would like to propose the following amendment: in place of 100%, substitute 50%. So that seems reasonable to me, especially because we can't, I think we initially talked about tabling this, and since we can't as a process issue, I just don't know how that, like where that leaves us in terms of having, if we did go with 50%, in terms of making up that little gap in the budget, because we had accounted for this being at 35%.
It's $3,500, and I think this fluctuates so much that I still think leaving the 15,000 as estimated revenue is a reasonable number.
Okay, so how do others feel about the 50% instead of 100%?
I'm supportive of it for 50%.
I am as well. Seems like a decent compromise for right now. And I would like to make sure that we revisit this next year.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it's a good compromise, and I agree with Anna about revisiting it.
Revisiting starts in 3 weeks.
Jesus.
Yes.
Revisiting post-COVID, I think.
Maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We need to give Neil a vacation.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So is everybody good? Jeff, did you already say you're good with 50 or?
Yes.
Okay, so I will propose that we change Article 13 to, instead of authorizing 100% of the land use tax did pursuant to RSA 79A25, that we change that to 50%.
I'll second.
All right, that was Stephen, I think. Stephen on the second. And okay, Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. I think, so that's everything that we got from the public on amendments. So I don't know, what else do we have left here? that has changes?
I don't think anything.
Mm-mm.
Does anyone want to revisit any of these later?
I don't believe so. No.
Articles?
No,
I'm good.
Okay.
I make a motion that Articles 14 through 17, Neil?
Yeah.
14 through 17 remain as originally proposed when we posted the warrant.
Second.
Sabrina's a yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
yes,
Anna.
Yes.
Okay. So we did that. No, but thank you to everyone who commented and emailed and weighed in. Even if we didn't necessarily take your amendment, I appreciate everyone being part of the process and sharing their opinions here. So I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. So
I'll move it, John.
before we do that, I would just, I guess we'll recap really quickly that for anyone who joined late, that we went through all the articles. We tried our best to impartially and faithfully fulfill our duties as required in our position as select board members and under the new state law that tasks us with going through the warrant article and making amendments or not making amendments as we see best for the town. So once we are done here, then that means tomorrow, Friday, the final ballot will be done with our changes on it, and there will just be our amended articles. There will not be multiple amendments on the ballot, and the ballot should be ready by 3. And then tomorrow is the second part of town meeting. So Bruce will be back running the show, and we will walk through the articles and our changes. And at that point, people can ask clarifying questions and make comments, but cannot make any further changes at that point. And then Saturday is voting day, starting at 8:30 at the high school.
And I would remind people that all of the comments that we received are on the town website. They're the top news feature right now and on the town meeting page. So if folks are interested in what exactly was submitted to us, you can see it in its glory there.
Yeah. And the reason we're not doing public comment tonight is because we had the 5 o'clock deadline today for comments and proposed amendments on the warrant articles. So, all right, unless anyone has any-
Sabrina, may I ask for your assistance in looking at tomorrow night?
Yes.
I find it generally necessary to address every meeting as if there are people in that meeting who have not been to any previous meeting. So I intend to give an encapsulated view of the whole thing, which will include reading each of the articles, in which I suggest then each of you will have an opportunity, should you choose to do so, to embellish on the reading. Do you have any objection to any of that? Okay. And I will, or you can, as we get to each article, note the amendments that you have made. I think they're to your benefit to do that. And I will then meet with Neil tomorrow and we'll put together, again, my a little bit more abbreviated introduction, and we'll go forward with that. And I'll also give them a little preview of Saturday morning and review that. Anything else that you think I should include?
Not for the meeting, but just so people know, where can they most easily get the ballot? On the town website?
That's my understanding. That's what I've been telling people.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it will go up on the website very similarly at the same places that the comments have gone up. There'll be a news and announcement on the front page. They can get it there. It will be on the town meeting page as well. We'll do a link on the Facebook page. There also will be hard copies available for people who don't want to print them at home, outside at both the town hall and at the Slusher Center.
And just to clarify, because this was a question last time, there's no requirement to print it two-sided. You can have at this point, 3 pieces of paper, right? 1 for the bond and 2 for the main ballot.
Yeah, probably 4
Okay,
pages, and it could be there'll be actually a blank page in there. So if you do print it double side, the bond comes out on its own separate page.
Yep.
And it can be either double-sided or not.
okay.
So
And just for anyone who joined late, we have to have the bond on its own paper ballot by state law. So that's why the bond gets its own special piece of paper.
that's right.
And I don't know how many we want to print, but we want to have a significant number when we get there on Saturday morning. We ran out last time.
Yes, we got those numbers, so we'll make sure we have the higher amount. And Bruce, I just got reminded that I think we could use a few more counters too. So they can contact you or contact the town hall with their names, and I'll give them to you. Or they can contact the town hall and let me know if they're
Okay.
willing to count.
Good.
And that begins at 2.
In the afternoon on Saturday.
Right.
And we will count until we're completed, and we will notify of the results as soon as they're available.
In the exact same ways we've already listed. News and announcements on the town meeting page.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all for your contribution to my contribution, and we'll see you all tomorrow night.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks.
Night.
You. So
Bruce. Do we need a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn?
I don't think we did.
So moved.
We need to, okay. Who's second?
second,
All right.
Back,
Sabrina's yes. Jeff,
yes.
Steven,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Anna.
yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
You,
Yeah.
See
everybody.
you tomorrow.
I'll be down in the morning.
Okay, see you then.